The first time I rode a horse, I was 3. It was at one of those little festivals where they walk you in a circle, and by the end, children are either screaming their heads off, begging to stop, or they can't remove the smile from their faces. I, thankfully, had been of the later children. They put me on what I thought to be the biggest wimp of a pony I'd ever seen. The kind that looked like they'd been through hell and back, trekking these little obnoxious kids around all day. So, they stuck me up onto his back, even if he did look like he'd just been through the meat grinder. I couldn't have been happier. Then, all of a sudden, he gave this big body shake, probably from the enormous amounts of flies everywhere. And my little 3-year-old self grabbed the horn of the saddle and said, "Again! Again!" My mother got this look on her face that was something of a mixture of surprise that I was still on, terror that I might fall and die, and a sort of, "here we go," exasperation. And while that little pony never gave another shake, I didn't leave his back for the rest of the afternoon, in hopes that he would have another fly to shake off. I was a very stubborn child, and once I got something into my head, good luck trying to convince me otherwise. I don't think much has changed. I was on another horse within the month, taking lessons before my parents knew what they were getting into. My mom also rode as a child. Once I started, she couldn't help herself, so those were our mother-daughter dates. Dad, whilst being supportive, never took any interest in riding himself. By the age of 8, Mom and I had switched to a more competitive barn and started competing in a couple of local shows. By the time I was 10, I was riding at a regional level and competing, whilst at this point not winning, but still, in AQHA shows, or American Quarter Horse Association. Like all sports, for example, baseball, the people on intramural teams don't compete with major league players. AQHA was its own version of the major leagues. The goal was to get to Congress. No, not in Washington, D.C. Try Ohio, and the biggest AQHA show in the United States. Mom and I were looking towards the idea of getting our own horse that we would share instead of the beautiful, but not our own, lesson horses that my trainer allowed us to ride. When I was in 7th grade in 12, my trainer found a for sale ad about this gorgeous gelding. He fit every possible thing on our list. We hit the jackpot for only $7,500, plus shipping down from Wisconsin. Our dream boy, Marvin. He was our starting ticket. I was, at this point, the only one riding competitively, mostly for money reasons. We were looking towards Congress with high hopes, not necessarily winning, but just being able to go and feel confident about how I had done. Congress was in October. It was currently spring break, so that gave us 6 months to be ready for the biggest show of either of our careers. All the pressure was on me. I was out there every day for a minimum of 4 hours. I got there at 8, and it was rare that I left before noon. My trainer, Robin, and her daughter, Taylor, were what I called my second family. While they were always pushing me to be better and try harder, I at this point felt like they were the best things to ever happen to me. Taylor was the older sister I had always wanted, and Robin was my second mom. While in the past couple of years had grown to fear them to an extent, they had quite the temper over things you wouldn't normally expect people to yell at you for. They were family. This pattern of a minimum of 4 hours a day lasted throughout the summer. But once school started back, I decided to join volleyball as well. I could feel myself crumbling under the pressure. But Congress was coming. All I had to do was make it to Congress. Then everything would be all right. I would be happy with myself. I wouldn't still be self-harming. I would be better. I had to make it to Congress. My relationship with Robin and Taylor had become closer, but I feared them more than any other people in my life, especially Taylor, who was 4 years older than me and had the power to command anyone or anything in that ring. At this point, I was constantly striving for their approval. It didn't matter how well I had placed at any show. If my trainers were disappointed in even the slightest bit of my performance, I left hating myself for what I considered to be failing them. I was in the best shape of my life, physically at least. I rode better than anyone at the barn, minus Taylor and Robin. We were on our way. Congress was coming. I had already told all my teachers about missing those 2 weeks of school. I was going to Ohio. Nothing could slow me down. I had one class, one shot, one chance to prove I was worth something, or in my mind, prove I wasn't a complete and total worthless piece of shit, like I had a tendency to think of myself as at the ripe age of 13. We were ready. Every possible preparation had been made. Our flat work was great. My jumping was spectacular. Even Robin and Taylor admitted it. When the time finally came for my class, my number was called and I went in for my trip, as they call it in the horse world. It was flawless. It was spectacular. I did what no one had really expected me to do. I got called back for finals. This was something we had prepared for, and I was ready for, but I was definitely not expecting it, because no matter how perfect of a trip I had, someone always had a better one. I went in for the callbacks, and all I could think of was Robin's saying, which, in layman's terms, was, "If I don't meet you at the gate, you aren't worth claiming." I wanted her to meet me at the gate at the end of this, and hug me off my horse, because of how proud she was of me. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out that way. I was 3/4 of the way through the flat portion of the class. Every judge's eye was on me. I was beautiful, powerful, perfection. Everything I had ever wanted to prove myself to be. The intercom calls out, "All contestants, please pick up the canter, please. Canter?" We were ready. We were on fire. Nothing could stop us now, or so I thought. When horses canter, they have these things called leads. And going a certain direction means you need to pick up a certain lead. If you don't pick up the right one, it's basically the soccer or football equivalent of taking the ball and scoring for the other team. I hadn't realized what I had done before it was too late. Every judge that had been watching me had just witnessed my fall from grace. That was it. I've been working towards this one moment for years. This one defining class. All I hear is Robin at the gate yell, "Shit!" And everyone in the stadium, all the judges and competitors, heard my trainer's yell of failure. It hit me like a cannonball. I had failed.